there, Sully here. Welcome to Transitions. If you are here for the first time, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. If you're returning but are not yet subscribed, why not? What are you waiting for? It's free and it's fun. Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Solstice, Happy Saturnalia, Happy Kwanzaa. Hey, happy whichever holiday you celebrate at this time of the year. Which brings me to the topic of today's video, spending the holidays on the road. It's a fact of the business that some of you will be on the road and cannot get home at this time of year. Now, it has been my experience that no matter which company you drive for, and whatever the reputation for treatment of the drivers, your company, your dispatcher, your broker, whatever, will do everything in his or her power to get you home in time for Christmas. Now, there are some people out there who don't necessarily celebrate December 25th as a holiday. And for that matter, there is no proof that December 25th was in fact a birthday of Joshua ben Joseph, but he was more likely born in the spring. But the solstice has been celebrated by various cultures for millennia before the birth of Christ. It was the church, in fact, in the 5th century, that decided that December 25th was to be celebrated as the birthday of Jesus. It was a concession to the Romans, who were used to celebrating Saturnalia, and in that celebration, in that way of doing things, December 25th was seen as the birthday of Mithra, the sun god. So the Petsanavate of the church simply changed sun god to son of God. But the Gospel of Luke gives no specific date as to the birth of Jesus. It does give clues to the time of year, though, such as shepherds tending their flocks by night, which is something they don't do in December. Shepherds have the sheep in the barn, and they're sitting in the hut, sitting around a nice fire, drinking local hooch and celebrating Saturnalia. And biblical scholars, in fact, conclude that, based on the clues from Luke, Jesus was most likely born in the month of April. But enough of that. It is what it is. And we celebrate Christmas, whether religious or secular, on December 25th. And it would be a good thing if you could be with your loved ones at this time. So expect your company to do all they can to get you home, at least in time for Christmas Eve. But by the same token, be ready to hit the road on December 26th, because the freight has to move. And there are other factors at play. Remember that winter just started a couple days ago. And there's nothing like a snowstorm to hold up freight. And a lot of warehouses and many of your customers are trying to fill up their warehouses for the springtime push of merchandising, especially now that their warehouses are empty from the Christmas push of selling. It's a time when freight starts moving, and it should be pretty busy, at least until late March or early April before things slow down again. But reality, there have been forecasts on the horizon that, at least here in the United States, a recession is looming. And that is not good for trucking. I don't know how many of you remember the recession of 2008, but that caused lots of trucking companies to close down. It was a drop in freight, and it was many of the drivers who would spend hours and hours in the truck stops and going to the other drivers and saying, "You have a load?" The carrier I worked for at the time wasn't too picky. We hauled anything and everything we could get our hands on. And we did a lot of New York City and Long Island and up in New England and all that the bigs couldn't get their drivers to do. And we did okay until the bigs took a look at that and said, well, we're losing money. We can put our drivers in there because we're paying our drivers less than that union company. We should be able to haul the freight for cheaper. And that's what they did. And basically, they put Atkinson Freight Lines out of business. Now, Atkinson had been in business for 123 years prior to February of 2012. And companies like Werner, Schneider, Swift, CRST, they all came in and took the freight. Werner did have a small dedicated, Atkinson had a small dedicated fleet of reefers that hauled Hershey. And they lost that, and that basically killed the company. They lost their Chet pallet business to Schneider, and you know, there's a lot of that type of chicanery going on today, and there are some companies that are going under. I mean, in this past year alone, NEMF went under, Falcon went under, and most recently, Celadon went under. These are companies that have been in business for a while, and they closed their doors this year. I think the last report I heard was that 300 companies have gone under. So if you're celebrating Christmas with a job, maybe you should consider yourself lucky. And this new mandate for the ELDs that everybody seems to be panicking about. It basically requires the ELD to be integrated with the engine so that it would switch automatically from on duty or off duty, whatever, to driving status. The ELDs that we used at Highway Transport, the last company I worked for, already had this feature. And there was a little bit of wiggle room in there. You could drive for up to 7/10 of a mile before it would actually kick in to driving mode. And if you stopped and set the parking brake and it was set for 5 minutes, that period would recycle. So, you know, it wasn't that bad of a deal. And I really think that, like everything else that's happening out there, people just hear little bits and snippets and pieces and they're overreacting a little bit. You just have to figure out the nuances of whatever system that you use. But remember that ELDs now have to be integrated to the engine to automatically kick into driving mode. And you have to be able to email your logs to law enforcement authorities. But just figure out these little subtleties and you'll be okay. Okay, so what does this have to do with driving on the holiday, Sully? I thought that was today's topic. Maybe it has nothing to do with it. But I'm an old man, and sometimes I ramble, but I also reminisce. And there have been Christmases out there when I was forced to drive, particularly when I was hauling mail. Not every mail contract cancels its runs on Christmas, and drivers are needed to haul this mail. But, you know, I was also getting holiday pay, so effectively I was getting double time for the work. Now, when I was at Highway, one Christmas I was asked to take a system load from Croydon, PA to, was it Minneapolis? Yeah, Minneapolis. And that was delivering on December 27th, which meant I had to leave out on December 25th. You know, I had nothing better to do that day anyway, so I wanted to put a little debit in my favor bank, and I took the run. And it was no big deal. I mean, traffic was light. You know, it was actually a pleasure to run. Driving on that Christmas Day. It was a delight. The weather wasn't that bad. A little cold, especially when I got to Minneapolis, but no snow. Now, when I was doing mail, and I would run on Christmas Day, I would stop down at the airport in Philly, and one of the expeditors down there, a fellow named Ben, he was a Muslim, so it didn't really bother him to work on Christmas Day, because to him it wasn't a religious holiday, and he already had certain things that he did during that time of year. But Ben was a pretty good guy, by the way. He was a Civil War reenactor. His roots are from Louisiana, so he always was on the southern unit. He was a Cajun, I guarantee. So I remember going to a Civil War reenactment and watching some of the rebel soldiers marching to the battle, and there he was. But because of his religious affiliations, he was able to free up some of his co-workers from working on Christmas Day. And, you know, you make a little extra money, and again, it's also good to have a little balance in your favor bank. But likely you'll be off on 25 December. So enjoy the festivities of the season. And remember, avoid drinking and driving. And please have a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday season, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, happy solstice, happy Saturnalia, happy whatever. Here's wishing you a very happy new year. My hopes that it'll be a good one for you. For Transitions, this is Sully, the retired tanker yanker. Safe and happy travels.